Hello again EFD, we've already covered 10 players ruined by Real Madrid, and as requested by you guys in that video in the comments, it's now time to head over to their El Clasico rivals, Barcelona. Brace yourselves. 10. Cesc Fàbregas. A controversial entry to kick off our top 10, and one that is certain to get the comments rolling. Cesc Fàbregas was a La Masia graduate with high expectations when he returned home in 2011. But despite winning 6 trophies of Barca, the only 2 of significance were 1 league title and 1 Copa del Rey. At the time of signing, Cesc was arguably the best playmaker in the world and was starting to grow frustrated at the lack of silverware at Arsenal. Xavi, Iniesta and Piqué's constant tapping up ended up working as he arrived at Barca for a mere £26 million. The trio that dominated Barca's youth levels were finally reunited, and the future looked bright with Messi, Piqué and Cesc back together. But it didn't quite pan out as Cesc would have liked. He couldn't break into the midfield of Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets and ended up having to play out of position constantly. Despite scoring 42 goals and picking up 57 assists in 150 games, Cesc never endeared himself to the Barca faithful, who even booed him on multiple occasions. The midfielder escaped the snowballing decline though, winning 2 Premier League titles in 3 years for Chelsea. 9. Marc Overmars. Next up, we have another former Arsenal player who swapped North London for the Catalans. I think I'm noticing a theme. Marc Overmars was undoubtedly one of the most talented players of his generation and found his most devastating form while playing for the Gunners, hitting double figures in each of his 3 seasons at Highbury and winning the double in 1998. Barcelona paid Arsenal £25 million for Overmars in 2000, making him the 4th most expensive player in history at the time, and was brought in partly to compensate for Luis Figo's departure to Real Madrid. It looked like a match made in heaven as the Dutchman linked back up with Michael Reiziger, Frank de Boer and Patrick Kluivert, with whom he had won the Champions League with at Ajax 5 years earlier. But things did not go to plan at the Nou Camp. Overmars gradually became a highly influential player for the Blaugrana in his first season. But after that, he found his opportunities in the first team increasingly limited, as the club continually switched managers while underachieving massively in the league and in Europe. Furthermore, his constant battles with knee injuries made it harder and harder to stamp his place in the side, and it eventually forced him to take early retirement in 2004, aged just 31. He would return 4 years later, just for a season, back at boyhood club Go Ahead Eagles. 8. Alen Halilovic. Now we have a player who still has plenty of time to prove himself again, but has certainly been hindered by his time at Barcelona. Alen Halilovic quickly became one of the world's brightest footballing prospects after making his debut for Dynamo Zagreb, aged just 16, which made him the club's youngest ever appearance maker. And the creative midfielder became ever present in his 2nd season at the club, prompting Barca to make their move in March 2014. Still just 17 when he was signed by the Catalans, Halilovic made his full debut in January 2015, replacing another flop, Adama Traore, in a Copa del Rey tie. And Halilovic suffered a similar fate, being sent out on loan before being sold to Hamburg. Unfortunately, the youngster's form continued to drop in Germany, and he was loaned out again, this time back to La Liga, with Mino's Las Palmas. Let's hope Halilovic's Nou Camp trauma doesn't hold him back forever. 7. Arda Turan. In at 7 we have Barca's most recent acquisition on the list, and at the time of recording, one who is still playing at the Nou Camp, for now. Arda Turan joined Atletico Madrid from Galatasaray in 2011, becoming the most expensive Turkish player of all time, and quickly consolidated himself as one of La Liga's most feared attacking midfielders. Turan's form helped the Red and Whites to the heroic La Liga victory in 2014, and a year later, Barca splashed €34 million on him, a somewhat strange move given that he was already 28 by this stage and couldn't make his debut until he was nearly 29 due to the club's transfer ban. Although Turan's numbers at the Nou Camp have been decent, he has not become the key player many expected him to be. As the club flopped in 2016, he became a victim of the high standards of the Blaugrana faithful. Following Luis Enrique's departure from the club, Turan could face a similar fate. 6. Alexandre Song. Yet another former Arsenal player now, and one whose lack of star quality was exposed horribly after joining the Catalan Giants. After being signed by Arsene Wenger as a youngster from Bastia, Alex Song gradually became a key player at the Emirates, and following Fabregas' departure in 2011, stepped up creatively, providing assist after assist for Robin van Persie. This form attracted Barca, who were looking to refresh their options after Guardiola's resignation. But it never worked out. Song could not dream to compete with the likes of Sergio Busquets and Xavi, and never looked like adapting to Barca's telepathic passing game. Loan spells at West Ham followed, where he threatened to come good again, but Song never really recovered his form, and decided to sack it in by moving to Rubin Kazan in 2016. 5. Bojan Krkic. In at 5, we have the second La Masia graduate on the list. Bojan started his life at Barca, aged just 8, and impressed as he climbed through the ranks before making his first team debut in 2007. At 17 years and 19 days, he broke Lionel Messi's record to become Barca's youngest ever appearance maker, and his 5'7" physique and his outstanding ability drew him instant comparisons to the Argentine maestro. And he looked like a Nou Camp legend in the making, as he broke record after record that season, becoming Barcelona's youngest ever league scorer, the first player born in the 90s to score in the Champions League, and smashing Raúl's La Liga record for most goals in a debut season. But as Bojan's mentor Frank Rijkaard left the club and was replaced by Pep Guardiola, things became more difficult for the Spanish teenager. Exhausted after a high-pressured first season in which he made 48 appearances, Bojan pulled out of Spain's Euro 2008 squad, and his form at the Nou Camp did not improve under the new manager. Following the departures of Henry and Eto'o in 2009, many expected Bojan to establish his place, but the rise of Pedro and the purchases of Ibrahimovic and then David Villa condemned him to the bench. An underwhelming spell at Roma and several loan moves later, Bojan spent much of the 2016-17 season on loan at Mainz from Mark Hughes' Stoke. Not the world beater he should have been. 4. Dmytro Chygrynskiy. Next up is a man who looks like he's fresh from a Darkness tribute band. The first ever Ukrainian player to play for Barcelona, defender Dmytro Chygrynskiy arrived at the club with plenty of pedigree. He established himself at international level, won 3 league titles with Shakhtar Donetsk, been made vice-captain aged just 21, and was part of the side that triumphed 2-1 over Werder Bremen in 2009 UEFA Cup final. Following Shakhtar's European triumph, Pep Guardiola was sufficiently impressed to part with €25 million. Maybe the Spaniard is a fan of heavy metal, or simply infatuated with his luscious locks. Turns out this wasn't money well spent. Chygrynskiy only notched up 851 minutes in a Barca shirt, and was often jeered for his slow and ponderous play. With newly appointed Barca president Sandro Rosell keen to wash his hands with what was seen as an expensive blunder by his predecessor Joan Laporta, the big Ukrainian was sold at a €10 million loss back to Shakhtar. But it wasn't exactly a glorious return for the Donetsk prodigal son, and by 2015 he'd left the club by mutual consent. He joined league rivals Dnipro the remainder of the season, but a paltry 15 games later was playing for AEK Athens in Greece. 3. Javier Saviola. In the late 1990s, Argentine attacker Javier Saviola was considered the next big thing. Having come through at River Plate, he made his debut for the club aged just 16, and within 2 years had won South America Footballer of the Year, and smashed Diego Maradona's record as the youngest ever Golden Boot winner. As you can guess, comparisons to the former Albiceleste captain were rife. With the world anticipating this youngster's next move, Barcelona worked their usual magic to bring a 19-year-old Saviola to the Nou Camp for nearly £30 million in 2001. A big gamble for one so young, despite his obvious talents. And it seemed like a good move at first. The young forward scored 20+ goals in his first 2 seasons with Barca, and looked like forming a fruitful partnership with Patrick Kluivert up front. But following Frank Rijkaard's appointment as the Blaugrana boss, Samuel Eto'o was brought in and Saviola was sent out on loan, and he never recovered the form of his youth. By the time he was brought back in 2006, he had missed the club's Champions League triumph and back-to-back La Liga titles. He finally won the Spanish League with Real Madrid in 2008, but started just 9 games over the campaign. He retired in 2016 with just 39 caps for his country. Hardly legendary. 2. Alexandre Hleb. In 2008, Alexandre Hleb was a regular in a competitive Arsenal side, and at times it looked like the ball was stuck to his feet. 9 years and 12 transfers later, the winger is part of the Krylia Sovetov side, which got relegated from the Russian top flight. Where did it all go wrong for the Sorcerer's apprentice? Well, there is a reason why he's on this list. The first Belarusian in Barcelona's history turned out to be a gigantic flop, despite the absurd technical ability he showcased in Germany and England beforehand. Joining the Blaugrana in Pep's first season, Hleb had his work cut out for him to try and make the starting 11. In his path was the likes of Henry, Pedro, Eto'o and of course Lionel Messi. But perhaps even more embarrassingly, a 17-year-old Bojan was handed more minutes than the €15 million man. Hleb had an interview with The Guardian in 2009, revealing his biggest regret was leaving Arsenal. Unsurprising given that he ended up playing for Birmingham. 1. Keirrison. Surely you remember Keirrison, no? Me neither. After finishing as the youngest ever top goal scorer in Brazil's Campeonato Brasileiro in 2008 with 21 goals, the future looked bright for the lively young forward. After joining Palmeiras in 2009 and sustaining his impressive goal-to-game ratio, he joined Barcelona in the same year for an initial €14 million, with a further €2 million worth of add-ons to follow. Upon his arrival, Pep Guardiola signalled his intent to loan the then 20-year-old out, prompting a host of Europe's top clubs to blindly compete for his signature. He eventually wound up on loan at Benfica, but found himself well behind Oscar Cardozo, Nuno Gomes and Javier Saviola in the pecking order. During his time at the Estadio de Luz, he only clocked up a mere 200 minutes, a prescient warning of things to come. By 2011, he was playing in Santos' reserve side, and unfortunately, the slump did not stop there. By 2016, he found a new career nadir when a move to Buriram United in Thailand fell through. He is now looking to kickstart his career in his late 20s at Portuguese club Arouca, forever a denizen of the Barcelona scrap pile. So those were our 10 players that were ruined by Barcelona. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. As we said, we aren't biased, we did both of them. Hala Madrid, I'm joking. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, why not check out Continental Club with me, Joe and Chris, where we talk about everything in Europe, a bunch of things. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.